me, Louie Tee. Welcome to the 2017 NFL Draft Prospects 101 Series, your guide to some of the biggest and hottest names. The 2017 NFL Draft, we're talking tight ends at this very moment. And I've talked about, to me, the biggest name in this draft at the tight end position in Otarius Jabari Howard. You know him as O.J. Howard. Now I'm talking about a guy that I think is stealing the show in terms of upside and excitement. This is the guy's name that you've been hearing this entire process, or at least of a late, that could overtake O.J. Howard in this draft as the first tight end taken. His athleticism, his upside, his physicality, all of the things that he brings to the table has a lot of people salivating over the prospects of getting their hands on him and turning him into the next big thing, a la Antonio Gates in this league at the tight end position. And he's got all the requisite materials and traits necessary to become that type of force in the league. I'm talking about the U's tight end, David Njoku. We're going to talk about David Njoku and why he's starting to rise in this draft, and why his characteristics, traits, and abilities have some teams on high alert as a potential big-time first-round draft pick at the tight end position. Let's talk about David Njoku and his pros. Checking in at 6'4", 246 pounds, David Njoku is a very imposing figure at the tight end position, and I'll tell you this much, I think he's still got room for growth, if you can believe that. He's one of the youngest players, if not the absolute youngest player in the upcoming 2017 NFL Draft. For sure, I know he was the youngest player at the Combine. I think he may be the youngest player in the draft. So this guy has more time to grow. I think he could easily get up to 250, 255 pounds and still keep that natural athleticism that he was born with. So this is a guy that I think is still growing, still filling out his frame, and going to continue to be a big time figure in terms of his size at the next level as he continues to grow into his body. You're talking about a guy that is uber athletic. That's the next pro. At 6'4", 246, you're talking about a guy that's running sub 4.540, and he ran about a 4.59 or so at the Combine. Improved that. You know, these pro day times are just so outlandish that I don't know what to make of them. I usually just throw a whole tenth of a second on top of whatever they tell me. So if you tell me that David Njoku, who ran like a 4.59, 4.62 at the Combine, ran somewhere in the low to mid 4.4s, I'm like, oh, really? Okay, that's so far off of the Combine time that it's almost unfathomable. But I will tell you this, he's such an athlete that it wouldn't surprise me if this guy is clocking a 4.5 flat. And I'll take that in a 6'4", 246 pound frame. Like, we get so caught up in some of these 40 times that you don't realize 4.5 flat for a 6'4", 250 pound tight end is fast as hell. Like, don't allow some of these inflated times to just blow your mind to the point where you can't even see that a guy running a 4.6 is fast at the tight end position if he's 6'3", 6'4", 245, 240, 250 pounds. That's fast as hell at 4.6. 4.5 is blazing fast. 4.4 is insane. So I think sometimes we get lost in the sauce of all of these fast and athletic guys that we lose sight of what's actually athletic and what's actually fast for some of these guys in their size. Don't let the television fool you either, because everybody looks the same height on TV, right? 6'4" is huge. 250 is huge. 4'5" is fast. So I can't stress that enough. This is a high school track athlete, high jumper, and you saw it. To me, if you want to see pretty much what David Njoku is as an athlete, just put on the pit tape. Don't worry about any other game. Don't worry about the Duke game where he stretched them vertically and showed the speed and burst, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Don't worry about any of those other games. Put the pit tape on if you want to see his athleticism on full display. There's a play in there where he catches the football out in the flats and is able to turn up the field and then dive into the end zone, jump over a defender that's trying to stop him from getting in the end zone who's being blocked, And that shows you that leaping ability that I just talked about, him being a high jumper in high school. You want to see some athleticism. You want to see this man show you the ninja-like ability, the cat quick, quiet tiptoe ability on the sidelines. Go put that pit tape on, like I said. He scored 2 touchdowns. I just told you one of the first ones. The second touchdown is just remarkable. So it's a little bit of a rub route. He's running a fade to the sidelines in the end zone towards the pylon. And for some reason, the defender thinks it's okay to just strong arm him out of bounds. Okay, let's just push him out of bounds. Okay, maybe they'll throw the flag, maybe they won't, but he won't catch it. And somehow David Njoku tiptoes the out of bounds lines. I don't know how. It's almost impossible that he stays in bounds on this play, but somehow, not only does he stay in bounds, he gets 2 feet in college, you only need 1. He gets 2 feet in bounds, catches the football, beautifully thrown football, even better play to go get it and stay in bounds. To me, that's the athleticism that this guy brings to the table. Strength. All right, and I talked about his body type and how this guy, I think, can still grow into his body. 21 reps of 2 1/4 at the combine. This guy plays with a level of physicality. He can catch the football in traffic, even though I think there's some issues, some minor hiccups there. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but make no mistake about it. He competes in the run game. He's a physical guy, not afraid of contact. Love the way he plays and approaches the game from a physicality standpoint. Strength is something that I think he will only become even savvier and better at as he continues on in his NFL career. But right now, just coming into the league, he's a big kid, physical, strong. I like all of those attributes that David Njoku is coming to the league with. And this is what has everyone salivating. This is what has everyone talking and buzzing, is because this guy is such a big athlete. He's physical, and he still doesn't really know what the hell he's doing quite yet at that. Solid route runner, solid hands, okay? I think he runs routes effectively. I think he can do a better job of selling routes, but he's such an athletic guy. And he's much more fluid than an O.J. Howard, much more fluid than he is in terms of the way that he runs, the fluidity, his body movement. He's got the ability to make guys miss out in space, which O.J. Howard just doesn't possess. And so he's a very fluid guy. Because of that fluidity, I think he runs routes well enough to get open. And I think he can learn how to sell routes, the nuances of maybe nudging a guy at the stem of a route, maybe a little shoulder fake here and there to kind of give the deception that he's going to run a seam or he's going to the post when he's just running an out. So I think there's some things that he can do to stick his foot in the ground and not round off some routes a little bit. But at the end of the day, I think he's a solid route runner. He's got solid hands. He doesn't have great hands. He doesn't have good hands. They're solid. He will drop the football. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but his hands are good enough that you feel comfortable throwing him the football, but don't make a mistake of thinking that on 3rd and 2, he will not drop the rock on your ass, because on 3rd and 2, he will drop the rock on your ass. But we'll get to that a little bit later on. Just know, solid route runner, solid hands as well. Rackster. This is a guy that will catch the football and make things happen after he catches it. That Pitt game, as I referenced, is a great example. Florida State game, another example. Virginia game, another example. The Duke game was a huge example. Catches a football on in the flats, gets up the sidelines, and just takes off for a touchdown. 2 catches, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns in that Duke game. Both big balls. One a deep ball where he got behind the defense, showcased the speed and burst and that ability. And that's the next pro. So I'll go ahead and lump it in with being a rackster. Vertical threat and burst is the next pro as well. So this is a guy, and that Duke game for me is the biggest example. If you want the example of him being a vertical threat and a burst, having that burst. And these tight ends, I think that's what fascinates me the most with this tight end group. With, you know, not just talking about just how talented these guys and how athletically gifted these guys are at the tight end position this year, but the size and the burst that these guys come with, it's just phenomenal. It's breathtaking when you think about it. To see a guy 6'5" or 6'4", to be able to go from 0 to 60 in 3 steps. These guys have tremendous burst. And I think Njoku and Evan Ingram may have the greatest burst out of the tight ends in this draft class, because they can catch the football and get to top speed instantaneously. And next thing you know, you're even, and now they're leaving. And that Duke game is a great example. He catches it out in the flats, gets 1 block, to pin the defender inside so he will have access to the sidelines, and then he just takes off. And they can't catch him, and next thing you know, he's gone into the end zone for a touchdown, about 70 yards. And just like that, David Njoku is hitting pay dirt. So he's got the ability to stretch you vertically. You take a false step. They go play action fake, all right, and the safety wants to be nosy. He wants to take a false step forward. Njoku's already by you. You're done. You don't have a shot because he's got that type of speed to threaten the safety if he makes a false movement towards the line of scrimmage and he's already in his full stride. You can forget about it. And that's what happened in the Duke game. Safety falls asleep behind the wheel. Njoku takes off, gets into that full-out sprint. Safety realizes what's going on. It's too late. Guess who's in the back door? It's David Njoku in the end zone. And he catches the football. He bobbles it, regathers it, and runs away from that safety and dives into the end zone for his second touchdown of the day. A huge day against Duke. And like I said, only 2 catches, but 2 impactful, big ball touchdowns. 2 catches, $134, 2 touchdowns. That's what he can do to you. Vertical threat with a burst makes him very dangerous in the passing game. Formational flexibility. A lot of these tight ends that you'll see will be offset in the formation. They'll be slightly behind the tight end. A lot of times these guys don't line up in a 3-point stance. O.J. Howard, one of the few guys that consistently lined up in a 3-point stance. And even he was offset a lot of times. They would send him in motion and have him offset and then have him come back across the line of scrimmage and sift block or counter block. So a lot of these tight ends are formationally flexible because they did so many different things in college, especially when you start talking these pass catchers like a Njoku, who they had him out wide. They love matchups against corners and safeties. They'll put him in the slot, get him against the linebacker one-on-one, and he'll win that matchup. They'll put him in motion and move him around. They'll line him up kind of tight to the formation. They do a number of things with him. So again, another one of these guys, much like a O.J. Howard, that I feel like you can run your offense through this guy. You can run any formation you like. He does not have to come off in sub packages where you feel like, okay, well, we really need to run the football here, so we got to take Njoku off the field. That's not the case. He can stay on the field. He's an adequate blocker, and he competes. I like that about him as a blocker. He may not be the greatest in the world, and there may be some technique issues there, but for the most part, he's giving you everything he's got, and he's physical enough at the point of attack to get it done in the run game. So I think a minor tweak here and there, and he'll be just fine as a blocker as well. Red zone target. I love this about David Njoku. This is what you lack with O.J. Howard, and some of that is blamed on the Alabama coaching staff and the quarterbacks for not getting him the football enough in the red zone. But 7 touchdowns career for O.J. Howard. David Njoku had 8 touchdowns in 2016 alone. Okay, so this is a guy in the red zone. I talked about that play against Pitt. There's another play against Notre Dame, double coverage. He comes down with the football. This is a guy you can throw it up to in the red zone, have him go get it. So he's one of those guys that you just line up outside, you know, out in the hash by himself, one-on-one with some poor defenseless linebacker or safety, and you just fade it up to him and say, hey, big boy, go get it. Or you throw the back shoulder fade and you say, hey, big boy, go get this for me. Come down with the football. He will gladly oblige. 8 touchdowns last season, about 5 or 6 of them in the red zone. So this guy is a legitimate threat once you get into the money-making zone, which is known as the red zone. Some teams call it the green zone. Once you get inside the 10, he's even more of a threat to hurt you. 8 touchdowns. Love that number for a tight end, especially in college football where these guys I don't think are utilized as enough as they should be. You go to his durability. Didn't miss a single game in 2 years at Miami. He was a redshirt sophomore, so he didn't play that first year. The next 2 seasons, didn't miss a single game. So this is a guy that's on the field generally every single week. And again, the best ability is availability and durability, if you ask me. You can be the most talented football player in the world. If you're not healthy, it simply does not matter. So we go from all of those pros that make David Njoku a very intriguing prospect to a few of his cons that I think he's going to have to clean up at the next level if he legitimately wants to maximize his talents at the next level. So the biggest one for me, the biggest con for me with David Njoku is the fact that he will drop the rock, okay? He will drop the football on your ass and have no problems doing so. He had a drop against UNC in the flats. And, you chalk that up to just, he wasn't paying attention. He just took his eyes off the football. He won't do it again. He did it in the Pitt game. And these are not, 1st and 10 or 2nd and 7 situations. These are 3rd and 2s. Wide open out in the flats. Like, time you can't have it because, as we know in this league, it's hard to sustain offense. And if you get an opportunity to continue a drive on 3rd and 2 and you got the tight end wide open and you draw this up, okay, you set this play action fake up so that he can be wide open in the flats. And he just flat out drops the football and probably had 15 yards of real estate ahead of him. And with the guy of the talents of David Njoku, those 15 yards could turn into 50 yards and a touchdown. That's pretty upsetting to see the ball hit the turf in that situation. Now you got to punt, okay? What could have turned out to be a scoring opportunity is now turnover for you and your football team as you now have to punt the football away. So he's got to catch the football. Saw him drop it more than a fair share amount of times, and I'm telling you right now, I'm not comfortable with the amount of times he dropped the football, and he needs to catch the football better. And I think he's got enough talent and enough hand-eye coordination and enough concentration to catch the goddamn football more consistently. I want to see him catch the football better than I saw him catch it on tape because there were quite a few drops, and this guy is way too talented for that. Needs refinement as a blocker. I'm not gonna kill this guy as a blocker because he competes. And as long as you are willing to put your body in harm's way, as long as you're willing to give me the effort, I can work with you if I'm a coach. It's the guys who don't have any interest in blocking that I can't work with as a tight ends coach. If you give me a guy that's giving me the effort, that's giving me the ability to want to be coached, I can take that guy and turn him into a serviceable blocker so we don't have to take him off the field in 3rd and 1 situations, in situations where we want to run the football and we're obviously going to run it, or we want to give off the illusion that we're running it so that we can run play action fake, and I want you on the field and I don't want it to be a dead giveaway and tell that we're throwing the football, then I need you to give me that effort. He does that. So I feel like he competes as a blocker, but there are a couple of things I think he needs to clean up first and foremost. He takes poor angles sometimes where I feel like if he just takes the proper angle, then he can make the block. But he's taking poor angles. He's coming underneath and guys are going over top of him, or he's not getting there. And the other thing that drives me nuts is a sense of urgency. Sometimes he comes off the ball too nonchalantly for me, as if the other guy is going to come off the ball at the same rate of speed. Like, hey, let's have a verbal agreement here. If I come off the ball half-assed, you come off the ball half-assed, then neither one of us will impact this play. Hey, there's no pack involved here. That defensive lineman, as soon as the ball is snapped, is coming off the football like his hair's on fire. You need to do the same. And sometimes I think he just gets beat. So there's a reach block that he has to get to. The running back is running away from him, and he can't allow that defensive lineman to cross face. You have to reach him and turn your body and get in front of him. You must get that reach block, or else if that defender crosses your face, he's not going to be able, he being the running back, not going to be able to cut back. There will be no cutback lane for him. You must, that's why they call it a reach block, because you have to reach a certain point, get in front of that defensive lineman, cut him off to create a cutback lane. And there are times where he won't come off the ball fast enough. And so now that defensive lineman is able to beat him across his face, and now he's in the play. So I just like to see him have a better sense of urgency, take some better angles to the football and to these defenders so that he can cut them off. And we might have ourselves a blocking tight end, folks. I think this guy has enough physicality, enough strength, and enough want to be an effective blocker. There's not much to not like, okay? Was that a double negative? I think it was. There's a lot to like here with David Njoku, okay? I'm excited about the prospects of this guy coming to the next level, but I need him to catch the goddamn football more consistently, and then I think you might have yourself a big-time player in the National Football League. Someone's going to get themselves an athletic freak at the tight end position known as David Njoku, and they're going to get him in the first round. That's going to do it for David Njoku and his Draft Prospects 101 breakdown. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we covered all here on the Louie Tee Network. Man, look, the tight end position this year is booming. I got more prospects. Look, it's a matchup league and it's a passing game now, and the tight end position is evolving right before our very eyes. We got more tight ends to break down, but don't you go anywhere. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.